if I were to ask you, what is it that Democrats believe and why? And could you tell me with like actually knowing what it is, and without putting it in these terms like, well, what is it? What do Democrats believe? Oh, well, Democrats believe that we should murder babies and trans the kids. Do you think that that's what they believe, though? Is that really the core of their belief? If I were to ask you, what is it that if you're a Democrat, if I ask you, what do Republicans believe? Would you say something like, oh, they want to give money to rich people and control women's bodies? Do you really think that that's what they believe, or is it just again this caricatured version of what the other side believes about things? If you're a Democrat, can you state the Republican position as though you were a Republican? If you're a Republican, could you state the Democratic position as though you're a Democrat? And my guess is, for the most part, we already know the answer to this. Most part, overwhelmingly, is no. But there's also this sense sometimes we put on people like, but you should be able to. If you're into politics, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But if it's not your thing, I guess maybe don't participate in it, don't vote, don't protest, don't do stuff like that, unless you know these sides. Yeah. Well, we all have our different opinions, right? And it is what it is, right? These are phrases that people will blurt out to try to stop conversations like that. You want to talk about something important, something like politics, religion, human rights? We all have our own points of view, though. Oh, yeah, that's true. It is what it is, right? Yeah, okay. Let's go do something else. When you hear those phrases in conversations, it's usually designed to try to stop us from having a deeper conversation. And you're right, when people bring these kinds of things up, we get uncomfortable about it. And the real question is that, it's a real question for intellectual growth. And intellectual growth is just the beginning point of life growth, really. What do you think about these things? And at this point right now, probably not a whole heck of a lot, but there are people out there. Do you like to have conversations about those sorts of things? Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else that's worth having a conversation about. What are we going to talk about? The weather? Did you ever find that if you find yourself talking about the weather, that just means you have nothing else to say to a person? I go to the copy room and there'll be someone in there, we have nothing to say to each other. I was saying something about. Oftentimes we might have nothing to say about subjects. And it's hard if you're a person who has a lot to say about subjects. If you have a lot to say about, like for example, if you're a religious person and you have a lot to say about your religion, and that we're always told, but you're not supposed to talk about religion. Why not? Well, because people get offended. So, is there any subject that's worth talking about that people don't end up getting offended by? And I don't mean you would intentionally offend people. That's like 5th grade stuff. You set out to offend people. But the truth is offensive to a lot of people. And does that mean we just don't talk about the truth? Every position is going to be offensive to some people. Does that mean we don't talk about any position? Which of course is just an impossibility. You'll have people who argue about the weather. Like today, for example, is it hot today or is it cold today? Oh, you coward. You're afraid to take a position?
It's cold as hell.
Man, you don't even know cold. And by the way, hell isn't cold. Duh, get your facts right. Jeez, I know there are people who just, they're looking for a fight of some kind. They're going to pick on whatever it is. Even if you say something like it's a little bit of both. Oh, so you're a coward, you won't even take a position on it. Yeah, exactly. There's only one way I can think of to not offend anybody. Say nothing, think nothing, and do nothing. Just people who want to stop you from that is because they want you to fit comfortably into their life, into their perspectives. And selfishness isn't living the way you want to live. Not thinking the way that you want to think. Selfishness is forcing other people to live the way that you want them to live and think. Yeah. I'm going to ask a question that sounds obvious, but I think it reveals perhaps something deeper. Why do you think selfishness is natural to us or dominates us? Think about some things that you guys love. For example, I love baseball. I believe that baseball is a metaphor for life. Baseball players, as athletes, are different from every other sport. We're different, man. A baseball player is someone who walks up to the plate. If you know baseball a little bit, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're successful 3 out of 10 times at the plate, that means that you're a Hall of Famer. You're one of the best who ever lived, which means that you fail 70% of the time. There are people right now who are who are close to leading baseball with batting averages that mean that they fail 3/4 of the time, 75% of the time. And yet, you walk up to the plate every single time. And you have to go up there with a mentality of, this is going to be one of those 3 times when I get this hit. Right? And you have to do it under incredible stress against a person who's throwing a ball at you at 100 miles an hour sometimes, 75 miles an hour another time, 85 miles another time, and the ball is moving around and it's doing things that you can't predict. And you have to make these kinds of adjustments in little microseconds. Hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things that you can do, and baseball is a game of failure. And yet, you go up there every single time with full confidence. If that isn't a metaphor for life, I don't know what else is. To be able to approach life from the perspective of, you might fail, there's a really good chance you're going to fail, but you have developed years of mental perseverance to be able to face even likely failure and still go up with full confidence that this is going to be the time of success. It's a very different game from any other sport out there. And I learned to love baseball from my mom. I remember the day that my mom taught me how to play baseball, not my dad. I remember the day that my mom took me out and taught me how to play baseball. I literally remember the day. She got paper plates and she had a tennis ball, and she was explaining to me how the game worked, and she taught me how to do it. That's dope. If I didn't have the mom I have, I don't know that I would have developed the love for baseball that I have. If I hadn't developed the love for baseball that I have, I probably would never have gone to college, which means I wouldn't be here right now. My whole life is completely changed because of that one day that my mom took me out with some paper plates and a tennis ball. My brother loves baseball. He's terrible at it though. He sucks. He sucks at most things that he does. So he's doing the only thing he probably could ever have done in his life, which is to become a high school principal. Now, he had the love, didn't have the talent, but that's about the only thing that my brother and I share in common, is a love for baseball. Everything else is so completely different, even though we were raised by the same families. Same environment, same neighborhoods, around the same people, and yet our interests are so different. It's incredible. Our ideas, our ways of thinking are so incredibly different. It's amazing. I haven't talked to him in like 20-something years. But before that, that's one of the reasons why. My brother has that point of view that if you don't share his point of view, then you aren't worth talking to. He's that kind of a person, which is great that he's a high school principal, by the way. And so, I thinking about that with regards to where it is that we develop these interests. But if you don't have the interest that everybody else around you has, you start to feel lonely. If you're in a family, for example, and your family really enjoys, going to the park and you hate the outdoors, that's one thing. But it's the thinking, it's not just the activities thing, it's the thinking things, it's the ideas, it's the values. And if you don't have those in common now, typically we'll kind of have some level of alignment with our families. But what about our friend groups? Like right now, for example, you guys have friend groups that you're kind of almost bred into because you've known each other since, in some cases, elementary school, junior high school. And now as you get older though, your minds start to develop, and your minds are developing in different directions. Even if your bodies are all in the same places, it's your minds that are developing in different directions. And isn't it interesting that those are the things that really kind of drive us? You can hang out with each other and do activities for fun. Anyone can do that, but can you have those kind of conversations that matter? Can you talk about things like religion, politics, values? And those are the things, interestingly enough, those are the things that seem to make life really worth living. It isn't just the tangible things, stuff that we can touch, taste, feel, smell, and hear. It's the things that we think that really matter the most. The things that you can't put your finger on, like love, values, morality, ideas. And it's interesting because you are these two parts of yourself. You're this physical part of yourself, And then you have this other part of yourself, which we can call intellectual, we can call spiritual, we can call it your soul. And lots of us can connect at this physical level. We can play games together, we can share a love of baseball, for example. Now, interestingly enough, how much we like baseball will have everything to do with not those physical, tangible things, but as I just explained that baseball is a game of failure which prepares you for life, if you don't understand that, you can still love baseball. But you love baseball at a different level when you understand it at that intellectual and spiritual and soul level. And the same is true with people. You can have people who you guys enjoy going to Disneyland with. But you can enjoy going to Disneyland with almost anybody, man. Disneyland is just a fun place to be. You can go to a Padre game and have fun with almost anybody, man. You can even go to a Padre game with a Dodger fan and still have fun, even though you're cheering for completely different teams, because you have a shared experience about that game. But when you can connect with a person at a much deeper level, those things that matter, like love, like religion, like values, ideas, man. And that's because you are these two things. You're a soul being and you're a physical being. And whether you believe in like religion, God, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about soul and spirit in terms of that intellectual thing, that psyche thing that we all have. And so if your inability to connect with people is typically going to be at that level, which is the hardest level, because the level that you really get to know a person, because a person is not their body. Your body is just a shell. When you don't connect with a person at that deeper psychological, spiritual, soul level, mental level, that's when you start to feel alone. That's why it is if you can be in a crowd of people, and you can never be alone, but yet you can still feel alone all the time. It's because bodies aren't the thing. Yeah.
I was going to say that I don't think you necessarily have to agree with the person like when it comes to those viewpoints, but it's like the openness itself. You can have like literally the opposite viewpoints, but it's being able to actually openly communicate without them getting defensive. It's being able to really try to understand where they're coming from, and that's the communication. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree, but it's just the openness about it.
Yeah. So in that case there, what's the connection?
It's just being able to have those conversations. Like, I feel like if you kind of don't surround yourself with people that you agree with, you're not going to get the viewpoints that you want to. Like, I have very different viewpoints from my parents, but I always talk to them about certain things and get to see where each other's sides are from and to understand each other.
And so, let me see if I can ask this the right way. I'm Muslim and you're a Christian, and we discuss religion. Do we agree about it?
Like, we can have that open communication.
No, do we agree about it though?
We don't have to agree about it.
No, but do we? That's the do we? But do we agree about it?
Agree about, like,
About religion?
sure, if there's
Really? So now I'm a Muslim Christian. You're a Christian Muslim?
Well, okay, like, with my parents, they're Catholic, and I'm an atheist, but I can agree that religion can be very good for some people. Like, I would never say that everyone needs religion or no one needs religion. Just acknowledging that religion is a very powerful tool for some people, and for some people it's not.
True. So what's the common ground there?
It's just people just being able to understand people, being just understanding that
You kind of said it at the beginning. Yeah. Because the important thing here is the important thing is the important thing. The important thing is not agreement. Can you have an atheist and a Catholic get together? Can you have a Christian and a Muslim get together and discuss these things about religion? Yes, of course. Can they not get along and still have a good time? Yes. Why? Because there is a level of agreement, but it's not about the subject matter. Let me see if we can get there. Yeah.
Being able to accept each other's
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
being able to accept each other's opinions and learning each other.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's even more than that, to get a deeper level than that. Anybody in here want to talk baseball with me? Why not? Isn't baseball important? Show of hands. How many of y'all think baseball is important? So obviously, we cannot have a discussion about baseball. Now, if I come in here and say, now, of course, as you all know, quite clearly, God, who exists, is in fact a Dodgers fan. And then some of you who might wear some Padre gear might be like, that's not true. Because here's the thing. We don't have a level of agreement. The level of agreement being baseball is worth talking about. You follow? If you have an atheist and a Catholic who are discussing religion, here's the level of agreement that you have. Religion is worth talking about. Religion is a valuable thing to talk about. That's the only level of agreement that you have to have. Anything beyond that is just cake. So that's why we can have disagreements, and yet we can talk about them, and then we can hear other people's points of view, and we can tolerate them without accepting them. But that level of agreement that we have to have at the very beginning is that it's worth talking about. It's like one of the things that makes school so difficult for a lot of people. I won't ask you to raise your hands on this one, but I wonder how many of you see a value in being here in the first place. And I wonder how many see a value in education. And even if you see a value in education, do you believe that this is a place where you can get that education that can provide you a better future? If we don't agree on any of those things, school is going to be a bust for you. School is going to be a failure for you. And not just, like, for example, you might believe that education can help you improve your life. But if me as the teacher, if I don't believe that, we simply can't have, we can go through the charades. We can show up physically in the same places. We can be in this classroom together. But what we can't do is have any kind of meaningful dialogue around that, any kind of meaningful development from that. And so you're right. Agreement certainly doesn't have to happen. But we should at least agree. Like the base level of agreement that we should have is that these things are worth talking about. That's the problem when we say things like, but I mean, we all have our own points of view, right? Yeah, sure. Okay, and it is what it is, right? Yeah. That's a thought. That's a small-minded person's way of trying to end a conversation. It is what it is. Oh yeah, that's just okay. That just basically says, I don't want to talk about this stuff. And the things that we decide that we do not want to talk about typically are the things that we think that we don't have any kind of common ground on, we just don't think are worth talking about. I mean, duh. Even if you're talking about a person in your life who you wish they would change, and yet they won't change, and then you say, well, whatever, it is what it is. Yeah. And you feel like the reason we shouldn't be talking about it anymore is because nothing's going to change, nothing's going to happen. At the very least, we should agree that when we talk about things, things can happen. And the thing that can happen is that our minds can change. Which, by the way, is why a lot of people don't want to have those conversations, because we construct a worldview. I referred to it a minute ago as a spirit or a soul or a psyche. To use the language of Carl Jung, it's a psyche. It's essentially your personality. And your personality has been constructed based off of, I used earlier, based off of your experiences, based off of the way you think because of your experiences.